Michelle, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me today, for coming on here, taking time out of your own schedule to tell us about what you are going to be presenting for the Blueprint coming up on Thursday, September 17th. We're so excited to have you. I've worked with you at past events with SCORE and some others. So excited to see you present again. So, if you would, for the people who don't know, give us a little bit of your background and what you're going to be bringing us on at the Blueprint.
Okay. Well, my background is I was a high school English speech and theater teacher for 10 years and ended up in the world of sales. And I did that for over 20 years. I had to think about that for a second, about 26 years. And in all of that, I realized that there are a lot of people out there that no one has ever taught how to talk about themselves, how to communicate. We take lots of public speaking classes. We were out all of the time, and I was going to networking meetings, realizing that there are a lot of business people that have never been taught how to talk about themselves. Um, they know the nuts and bolts of their business. They can tell you everything you need to know about their product or service. But when it comes to telling people the why, them, they struggle. So I started my coaching business based on that and created some programs to help people better put themselves into their businesses, to feel better standing in front of a room full of people and sharing information. Uh, Public speaking is the number one fear in the world. So it's actually a phobia for like 40% of the population. So
Right?
yeah,
Like
so
right after death.
right after death, exactly. People are more afraid of public speaking than they are of snakes and fire and flying and all those things. And so people deserve to be seen and heard. And I think that's something that our society sort of just skipped over. And we give people scripts, we give people all kinds of sales prompts, but those don't always connect. And I think connection is the key in business. And then, right after COVID, I started seeing a different break in communication. And I couldn't figure out at first what the problem was, but I had uh, college age children. I had a high school graduate and two college graduates, one with a master's degree. They're all graduating, and we're all trying to figure out why they couldn't find good jobs. I'm not going to say couldn't find jobs, period, because they did all have various jobs. But the way that they were being seen, treated, spoken to in their jobs, there was just a very large disconnect. And at first, as mom, I said, well, if you're looking for a job, stop putting it online and go to the place and ask for an interview. And finally, my son came in with computer in hand and said, this is how we have to apply for jobs now, Mom. It's not like it was when you were applying for jobs. And he said, so if you can find me a place to go into and a person to talk to, I'm more than happy to do that. And then my daughter came home and in tears and sat down and was telling me about this horrible experience she'd had with her boss and how horrible she felt about herself. And it was just a communication breakdown.
Mm.
So I started thinking about what makes it different. What makes it different than when I was in the classroom and there were younger kids? What's missing? What am I missing here? And that's when I realized that there are 5 generations in the workforce and 6 in the consumer base. This is the first time in history that that's actually happened because baby boomers aren't retiring.
Yeah.
They are having to work. They're staying with their businesses. They are working jobs to supplement their retirement. And so we have everybody from 16 years old to 70-ish years old, all working in the same places.
Yeah. My grandmother, she's 86 now. She retired at 82 from
Right,
full-time work. And it
right.
was just that she wanted a social outlet too. And so there are people who, like you're saying, they're staying in longer.
They're staying in longer, their health is better. They're not ready to quit. They want the social aspect of things, or they really are not ready to retire yet. And so, we there always been generation gaps. We know that. And sometimes it's hard to communicate with people from another generation. But having 5 generations in the workplace all at the same time is really causing a lot of miscommunication. And that miscommunication is costing businesses tens of thousands of dollars. So just here in the 417, research is showing that the average business with 100 employees or less are losing anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 a year because of generational miscommunication.
Mm,
And
that's significant.
it is, right? And it is responsible for the high turnover rates in businesses. It's really what's happening when half of the population is saying nobody wants to work and the other half is saying nobody wants to hire.
Yeah.
Well, those two things can't be true at the same time, except they are.
Yeah.
And it's a breakdown of not really understanding each other. And my son has a master's degree in history, and he stepped in with me on this because every generation is shaped by its history. It's shaped by what was happening during those formative years when you're growing up. And it shapes the lens through which you see the world. And I started realizing that I'm hearing people my age say, oh my gosh, millennials and Gen Z are so entitled and they're lazy and they don't want to work. And yet here I was surrounded by my kids and their friends who really wanted to work and couldn't find a job.
Yeah.
And the jobs were requiring 3 to 5 years of experience. And uh, if they were working a job, it was barely for minimum wage, but they were expected, they were getting paid $14, $15 an hour, but expected to do $25 an hour worth of work. And their bosses didn't understand why they wouldn't do that.
Hmm.
And so I started realizing what older generations see as entitlement is just a difference in priorities. You're not that much younger than I am, and yet, we met in a classroom where
Yeah.
I was the authority and you were the student, but there wasn't that much of a difference between us and the way that we were raised. But now, when you have a baby boomer in a work setting or a Gen Xer who is autonomous and we just do what needs to be done and it's just the way we do things and we just expect everybody to understand the expectation.
Hmm.
And then you have millennials and Gen Zers who have come through school trainings with more experience than we ever dreamed of graduating with, and
And more information.
more information at their fingertips. And their priority is work-life balance. The idea that you live to work is gone. And
Hmm.
um, you work to live and you work to do the things that you want to do. And that is being mistranslated as um, entitlement, laziness.
Yeah. I
And
think so many of them also, like, they saw those parents, the Gen X and the baby boomers and all of them, they saw them work forever to finally retire, to be too sick or too beat up in their body and their mind and everything to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And so they said, actually, maybe let's do this different.
absolutely. And really, we set the path for them to do it differently. That's the craziest part to me is that, Gen Xers are really responsible for corporate daycares and flex time and hybrid options. And then we get aggravated because millennials and Gen Z want to use those. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, it's just really intriguing. And when we put it all together, we saw what was missing. So in the world of HR and hiring, um, we're missing the point. We have all of these tools that, oh my goodness, they go through, they're resume readers, they look for the keywords. We have strengths testing, we have personality testing, we have communications testing, and all of those things are fantastic tools, but we're still missing a tool. And that is that generational priority, that
Mhm.
generational translation. And so we have created a program called Decoded that teaches you how to translate. It teaches you how to see the world through multiple lenses at one time. So maybe they're not entitled. Maybe what you're seeing as entitlement is someone who knows an easier, faster way to do it. And maybe what they're seeing as rigid and inflexible is simply jumping in and getting it done. And all there's none of them are wrong. And I think we've been taught for generations to look at the flaws or what's different as bad.
Mhm.
And it's not bad, it's just different. So younger generations, millennials have work-life balance. They're not going to work 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. And
Yeah.
and they're certainly not going to work a job at $15 an hour and go above and beyond and stay late and do all of those things if they're not going to be respected. And they want to know why. They want to know how it works. They want to know the expectation. And we come from a background, I know myself. Um, this is the example I give. My very first job was in a sale barn. I worked in the office at a cattle auction, and I got to work usually right before 8 o'clock in the morning. And I had to stay until the auction was finished. So a lot of times that was 8 o'clock at night, sometimes nine. It just depended on when the people were going to come in and pay for their stuff, to pay for what they bought. And I was handling hundreds of thousands of dollars in
Mhm.
payments, in cash, checks. I made $25 a day.
Wow.
It was a good job because it gave me lots of great experience. But even back then, when 3.85 an hour was minimum wage, $25 for 12 to 14 hours worth of work, handling these giant ticket items. I mean, my very first transaction, the gentleman asked me to write a check for $120,000. I was 18 years old
Uh-huh.
and I had base training to do this. I didn't know how to write a check for, I had to wing it, $120,000. And so that's our background, just get it done, do it,
Hmm.
figure it out. Well, that's not the way it has to be. And we get kind of stuck in that concept. So, what Decoded does is it shows you the influences of each generation, what we survived, the good, the bad, all of it. And it translates that so that instead of seeing someone as rigid or entitled or bossy or lazy, you're actually seeing the strengths of each generation. Because the truth is, if you had a person from each generation who was open to the strengths of everyone else, if you had a team, boomer through Gen Z, your team would be unstoppable if you just
Hmm.
let everybody play to their strengths and you weren't offended because Gen Z came in and said, I know you've been using this program for a decade, but did you know it did this? And instead of being offended, you could be, oh, I'm so glad, you saw
Right.
that. Let's put her on this job all the time. So, and we do it from a positive aspect. Instead of different being wrong or bad, we show how you can identify the strengths in each of those generations. And when you do that and you understand their priorities, your turnover stops. It slows down tremendously. People stay.
Hmm.
Um, they feel like they're a part of the team. They all work together. Um, it stops you from not hiring the best person for the job because they're 59. But it also stops you from not hiring that person because they don't have 3 to 5 years experience or their experience is in a completely different field. But when you understand the strengths that they're bringing to the table, that shifts it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. You were talking too, not just in the workplace, but also the multi generations and the consumer base.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a client recently who is in outside sales, business to business sales, and she
Mhm.
was talking about going in, and now the managers and the owners are younger. And she's in that middle place where she's talking to people who are at retirement age and then also people who are much younger.
Yes. Oh no, absolutely. You want to close a deal fast, you need to know what generation you're talking to. And really Gen Alpha is in that generation too. Those are the under 16-year-olds right now. They're being taught how to shop and how to spend. And you see the advertisements on TV about the kids' accounts and cards and teaching kids how to be responsible. And so those kids are making consumer decisions.
Mhm.
And when they're making consumer decisions, their parents are respecting them to do that. They're doing it with guidance generally. But the last thing you want to do is have one of them feel misunderstood or disrespected and have them say no. Um, so, yeah, I think it goes both ways with that as well. And we know uh, when we first started Decoded and doing the seminars, every seminar, we would have multiple people come back to us and say, oh my gosh, I closed that deal in a day, and normally it would have taken me weeks to explain it. We had one person come. This is funny. She loves when I tell this. She only came to be supportive because she's a millennial and she really assumes that she's a really good communicator because she's a millennial. And they do think that
Mhm.
they're really good communicators.
Yeah.
So she came, and we were only just a very short period of time into the seminar, and she said, oh my gosh, I see it. She said the hardest people for me to close a deal with, and she does AI and technology and websites. And she creates back office systems for small business owners. And she said it takes me weeks, if not a month, to close a deal with somebody Gen X. I have to break it down for them. I have to do all these things to show it to them. And she said, and we have to go back and forth. And then I keep my fingers crossed that they're even going to say yes. And she said, I see absolutely what I need to shift. And after the seminar, she called me and she said, I went home, I did it this morning. I called both of them. I closed them because I told them what they needed to hear. And I was
Nice.
too busy trying to dazzle them. And They just needed to know what the ROI was and what they needed to do to get it and how the cost was justifiable.
Yeah.
And she said I'd been spending weeks running in a circle explaining these things. And just by seeing it through their lens, she closes deals faster now. So,
Yeah. Well, and I think going back to what you talked about, and yes, so when we first met, I was in your classroom and I was learning a lot about character development and speaking and also listening. And I think that is such a big thing that I feel like in my life, in a lot of what I've done, the principles that we learned in theater and debate and all of those things have driven me further
right.
than many other things I could have done. And just to speak on that and to why this your specific experience leans so much to this, I think often we don't listen for those cues to find out maybe what generation a person is in and where they're coming from and get so
Exactly.
excited about speaking first sometimes and
Mm-hmm.
giving all the information. But also when you have come from a place of developing a whole character behind someone and helping them to go in with a fully realized version of themselves, their own character, and who they are whenever they're presenting to people, but to also realize that, and maybe this is a little cheesy, but we're going to go there. To have this play, this performance resolve, and to have it have this happy ending that we want, which is the sale in real life,
Yeah,
we need to be able to play off of each other, and we need to be able to yes and that and to listen.
exactly. It's an interaction. And, you know, I think back to when I was in high school and there was a lot of talking at us. There wasn't a lot of collaboration. Yeah, we did work in groups, but most of my classes were lecture classes. And
Mhm.
the the best classes I had were where the teachers created some sort of hands-on experience and let us think it through for ourselves instead of telling us this is the way it is, this is the way you think, this is what you do. And I think the difference between my high school career, so somebody who graduated in 1985 to 1990,
Mhm.
and my son who graduated in from high school in 2016 and um, finished his master's degree by 2023, his college experience contained so much more hands-on. His high school experience revolved around the idea that he had to not just recite things, but he had to understand those things.
Mhm.
He had to be able to converse about the theories and the ideas. There are kids in high school right now who have Emmy Awards and their movies are being sent off to film festivals and their photography is being featured in magazines. And I can't even imagine that when I was their age. And so I think that when we start to understand those things, but also, he talks a lot about why people in my generation respond to things the way they do. And it's a big aha when you realize how independent a Gen Xer had to be, or how crazy it was for boomers as adults for both parents to work. It was so stressful to them because it was so new. And so when you start to see those things, you find out, first of all, we have a lot more in common than we think we do. And you also start to be able to understand what the people are actually saying to you. Whereas if you only look at things through your own lens, you're missing the whole rest of the world. And so one of the things that we do is we break it down to what each generation needs to hear to say yes.
Mm.
How do you take your message and adapt it based on the age of the person that you're closing with? And Somebody asked me one time, well, that's a stereotype. Well, stereotypes exist for a reason. It makes sense that a group of people who experienced all of the same historical events, life experiences, uh, would fall into a stereotype of the way that we respond to things. And I think that it's something that's missing in all of the training that we get for anything
Yeah.
that we do.
Yeah. I completely agree. I love this. I think this will be very exciting for everybody to come and see, and to experience and really get something out of, because whether you are a person who is in corporate and you are part of that field of people where you're interacting on, in the office with them, or
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in outside sales or a solopreneur or whatever it may be, you're talking with people no matter,
Absolutely. And you are making those connections. And so uh, we have proven at this point that it increases your revenue, it improves morale tremendously, it increases engagement. So teams are more engaged because you want to participate when you feel like people understand you.
Mhm.
And so across the board, with everyone that we have worked with and every seminar that we've done, that has been the outcome that is being reported to us, is that people are closing more deals, they're making more money, team engagement has gone up, turnover has gone down. And that is just exciting to me.
Yeah. That's very exciting. So, something that I remember from a long time ago when we
I
first
mean,
met,
your memory is better than mine. So,
I don't know, maybe not entirely, but there were a lot of books that I wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise had I not been in a class with you, and I'm very grateful for that. A lot of quotes that have followed me. So, fast forward all these years, do you have any books, that it doesn't have to be just in your specific field or anything, but anything that's meaningful to you that you think people should read?
uh, wow, I have so many of them. Um, of course, one of my very favorite books, and I think it needs to be read multiple times, is fiction, and it is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Hmm.
And the lessons that come from that are incredible. And I know that some people don't want to read it because, it was a not so great time in history. But the lessons that she gives us through Scout and Atticus Finch are just absolutely amazing and transcend time. So,
Yes.
and if you haven't read it as an adult, I highly recommend it. I read that book when I was a freshman in high school, and I read it again in college, and then I read it again when I was teaching my classes. And seeing it through all of those different time frames, I learned so much from it. So that would be my fiction book. Um, while I have a couple of books that I have been reading, I think one I've recently been exposed to and really love is Happy Pocket Full of Money.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a tremendous view of how to not hold yourself back, how to dream
Mm.
big, how to open your thought process and connect to the things around you. And it's really written for anybody, any age, any faith, any business, any experience. And I keep rereading it. I go back to things in it pretty regularly. So
Okay, I'll definitely. I think it's time for me to revisit To Kill a Mockingbird, because it has been those many years ago. We won't give that a specific number, but it's that many.
it was
Um,
yesterday.
it was yesterday. It was yesterday. Yeah. And then Happy Pocket Full of Money. I'm definitely going to pick that up too. So along the same lines, do you have any quotes or mantras that have followed you?
Yes. So um one of my very, very favorites, and I use this in coaching a lot, is what other people think about you is none of your business. I love Eleanor Roosevelt. She's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she was just a brilliant human, and that is probably one of my favorites. And the other one um, is some will, some won't. So what? Move on next. So
Yes.
those are ones that I remind myself of all of the time.
Yeah. I I like those in particular as well. I think it took me a while, speaking of generations and times in your life, to realize the significance of that. What other people think about you is none of my business. Um,
Exactly. Exactly. And I think we have to come back to it sometimes too. Because we do care about what the people who are important to us think, but at the same time, those are their own thoughts.
mhm,
And that doesn't mean they're truth. So one that is the basis of my business, and this one is really, I guess, my own. I don't think I heard it anywhere, but perception is reality, but it's not always truth.
mm, yes,
So
yes.
whatever you or someone else perceives about you may be your reality, but that doesn't make it true.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. Before we close out, is
Yes.
there anything that you would like to share to invite people to come on Thursday, September 17th to the Blueprint Women in Business Summit? Just I'll give you a moment to anything you would like to add, anything you would like to share or invite.
Well, I think that anytime that you have an opportunity to surround yourself with um, people who care about you and your success, that you should just dive right into the middle of it, because you're always going to walk away with something beneficial. Even when I am a speaker at an event, I always gain from the other people who are speaking, the other people in the room. And I think today we have to do this more and more, surround ourselves with other people who want for us. And so I say sign up, get your spot, figure out how you can get there, and really immerse yourself in it for the day. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. I'm excited to spend a day in person with you again too. So,
Oh, me too. Not with
yeah,
me, but with you.
yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and we will see
You.
you on Thursday, September 17th at the Blueprint.
Sounds fantastic. I'll see you there.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure. So
Yes.
I'm excited
Yes.
about it. I am ready to jump in and see what everybody has to offer
Yeah. It's
and
going to be
share